Hey guys, welcome back to the Self-Care Punk channel. Super excited that you're here today. Whenever you're viewing this, welcome. Super excited to have you here to check out the content. Be sure to subscribe if you like the vibe, and at the end of the video, if you make it there, be sure to give the video a like. But let's get into it. So pretty much what we're going to do today is do a really quick kind of personal self-reflection exercise that I think is really cool. The biggest thing, the name of the channel, like Self-Care Punk, you may not necessarily identify as being like punk rock or like have the blue hair, have piercings and stuff, like whatever, it doesn't matter. To me, truly, being punk rock and living kind of like that punk vibe, that punk energy, it is actually a mindset. It's all about how you approach life and how you think about things. It's really all about like giving it your all, knowing yourself really, really well and what you stand for, and not taking no for an answer and going after what you want, and pretty much giving the middle finger to, like the man, right? But as you grow out of your teen years and into your 20s and into your 30s or however old you are, it doesn't matter. Like, age is just a number. You start to evolve and start to change how you kind of bring that to life. But for those of you who found yourself at this channel, you're here for a reason. And what I'd love to share with you today is 5 simple questions to ask yourself that are really all about getting to know yourself. To be punk rock, you've got to know who you are. You've got to know what you stand for, how you feel about things. And before you go talking about the external world, you have to get to know yourself. It's a really challenging topic for a lot of people of all ages. It's not just for the angsty teens getting to know themselves and growing into adulthood, but for people and of any age. But the most important part about this punk rock mindset and this lifestyle is getting to know yourself and really having a strong conviction of just that inner knowing, and eventually being able to live that every day and be able to articulate it and stand up for yourself and live a truly authentic, like punk rock life, right? So I wrote them down, but I'd love to talk through them with you. So number 1, by the way, get a notepad. You don't have to do this right now. I'm not going to pause the video to do the exercises, but feel free to pause the video if you want to do them now. This is not a one and done assignment. It's going to happen and evolve over time. What's really cool is like doing these questions maybe every 3 months or twice a year, or once a year is always awesome, because you're not the same person that you were yesterday, especially during a pandemic and COVID and all that crazy stuff. Like, people change, and that's another thing that you got to get used to, which is also a great thing. So break out that pen, you've got our notebook or your computer, whatever you like to take notes on, your journal. But question number one, how would you describe yourself? This is a pretty loaded question. What essentially is your elevator pitch? And not really an elevator pitch, that's probably a bad example because that's too sales-like. How would you describe yourself? Like, to yourself, like write down on paper, like whether it be sentences or a list of words to describe yourself, like your true personal self. Like, this actually, some of the first few words might come really easy to you, but as you get going, you're kind of like, shit, like I need to think about this. And that's okay. That's totally okay. And it's a really good thing because it's going to start helping you tap into thinking about things and how you feel. But the biggest thing to start with is how would you describe yourself? It's a really fun inner self exercise. And once you get through this process, it's really actually kind of fun and very vulnerable to ask like really close friends of yours, like your bestie, like how would they describe you? And see if your outer self that you interact with the world and your close friends matches up with who you actually are, right? So that's the big number 1 question. Spend some time thinking about that. And again, if you can't answer them, don't stress yourself out. Just asking yourself that question is going to plant a lot of seeds in your head, and eventually you'll start being able to write some things down as things pop into your head. Question number 2, what makes you truly happy? What fills you with joy? This is a huge one. This is a really great starting point for things like feeling lost or having lack of direction or being confused or feeling like stagnant in life and whatnot. This is a really awesome question to be able to pinpoint like what actually makes you happy. Because if you know what makes you happy by default, it is really easy after a while to just kind of follow that vibe. It's so important throughout life, and to literally be a badass punk rock, let's say like a vibe, is to just know what makes you happy. Like, what do you love doing? What do you love being around? What fills you with true, like, unforced happiness, right? That's a really big one, and something that will start shedding light on a lot of things. And what's great about these questions is they're not going to stay the same. Like what you loved last year or 5 years ago, for sure, I would hope 5 years ago or a year ago, are not going to be the same. And then over time, you'll also start seeing consistency, like, or through lines. Like, I still like a lot of the music that the bands that I listened to in high school. I still have certain hobbies that I really am passionate about, and I've really tried to stick with, because I realized, like, okay, like these are actually things that are sticking around. And as you evolve and things kind of come and go, that's awesome. It's just recognizing your growth and your change. So number 3, what are your values? What do you stand for? This is a big punk rock question. So this is all about figuring out, like, what is it that is important to you? Is it, success? Is it power? Is it being comfortable, secure, having fun, financial freedom? Is it about, having a family or being close to your family? Is it creativity? I mean, the list goes on, but it's really all about, like, what are your values? Sustainability, like being good to the planet and treating Mother Earth with decency, and trying to undo a lot of the things that we've done. Obviously super punk rock, but it's like beyond politics and beyond like that world. What are your values? I personally value like freedom. Freedom's a big one. Creativity, also security, like feeling, like I have stability in my life, and balance. Balance is a huge one for me. But freedom and creativity and independence are like top 3, like no doubt. So, but I didn't know that 100%. I had feelings about it, but I didn't really know. I couldn't like just spit them out like right away. So spent some time thinking about that and being like, yeah, these are really important to me, and these are really non-negotiables. These values are really turn into non-negotiables, or things that you look for in places you want to work, in things that you want to participate in people you want to be around. So this one, like, it lines up so nicely with the punk rock vibe, but it's basically like knowing what you value and what's really important to you is so core to your identity, and how you're going to kind of move throughout life, and what you're going to involve yourself in, and dedicate your time and energy to. Question number 4, what gets you really excited? What makes your heart light up, or your eyes light up with inspiration? Like, what gets your inner wheels turning, or your heart really like engaged? Like, what are those things that you're passionate about? And it's different than happiness. Like, happiness could be anything. Like, I love going to museums, which could also be a passion, for example. But like, what gets you really excited? Like, is it cooking for friends? Is it playing in your band with or playing live, standing on a stage playing live music? Is it painting? Like, things that really speak to your soul. To me, it's just like things that fill you with inspiration, are things that you can find a lot of interesting realizations about yourself in, and or can be really rich areas to kind of unpack and start exploring. And again, this isn't a one-time thing, because it's going to be a lot. These 5 questions are going to probably come up with like a lot of stuff that you can think through and journal about each one individually. So really exciting stuff. And question 5, this one's loaded and might get you feeling the feels. But how do you feel about yourself? Today, like today, as in like this present moment, or lately. How do you feel about yourself? Do you feel confident? Do you feel good? Do you feel kind of like blah? And that's okay. Like, that's blah can be a total feeling, like, right? So it can be, I feel sad, I feel anxious, I feel kind of fearful, or I feel confused. There's, however you feel is how you feel, and that's okay. So this one's really all about just figuring out like where you're at, like having a benchmark for just getting in touch with your emotions. I know for me personally, I identify a lot with music because it helps me channel my emotions. I spent the past few years like really getting in touch with my emotions. I used to think I was this stone cold bitch. Really, I'm very animated and passionate, but I didn't really have a. It wasn't easy for me to like get in touch with my emotions, even though I'm a very emotional person. Like hashtag like hybrid emo, like punk rock emo. But getting in touch with how I actually feel about myself and how I feel about things and people and all that stuff is really important in this whole process. It's also really good to be able to either formally through journaling, like track how you feel, not like, a big project, but I don't know, once a month, once a quarter, like every 6 months, like being like, how do I feel about myself and my life overall? Super important. And then the real loader, like the loaded question to follow up with this is, how do you want to feel? And if you're already feeling amazing, that's great. And if you're not, that's awesome too. That's okay. The point to this is it's really about where you want to go. And obviously, we're all here for a certain reason. Like we'd like to get to know ourselves a little bit better. And so, you may feel great on average on the day to day, but like perhaps it's something deep down in you that you just have this inner sense, this inner kind of pull of feeling like not quite right, or things keep happening, or these patterns in your life aren't going keep happening, or your life's not going the way you want it to, or you're lacking inspiration. There's a lot of things that could be going on. And so knowing how you feel now, and knowing where you want to feel or how you want to feel in the future is a really, really powerful way to not only commit to that, but having somewhere to start. These questions are super loaded. They're really intense. They seem pretty straightforward, honestly, right now, but I think for everyone who actually commits to doing this, and it's going to feel, you're going to feel pretty vulnerable, and you're going to do it by yourself. Like that's the easiest way to do it. And it's going to maybe not be too fruitful in the beginning, but if you actually maybe come back to it or think about it once a week, or once a night, like whatever, or in the morning if you're a morning person. I'm a night owl, so that's when I do all my thinking. These will probably get more elaborate the more time you spend with them, especially if it's something new to you where you're not really used to self-reflection and being like, oh, asking about me. I'm the subject. I'm the center stage. Oh shit, okay. Yeah, I know. It feels really uncomfortable at first. And for people who aren't used to that, that is something very new to get used to. And it's a beautiful, awesome thing because over time, the more used to, like the more